The headline mass shooting has become all too familiar in today's America. It is something we have become immune to. We send our thoughts and prayers, and the next day we forget it even happened. We are no longer safe going to work, to church, to the movies, to a concert, and unfortunately, we are no longer safe in our schools. Schools are no longer places of learning. They are war zones. Schools are supposed to be where kids go to learn, where friendships are formed, and to some kids, even a safe haven. But instead, students come to school with the fear of being the next victim of yet another tragedy. Parents send their kids to school to get an education, but instead they send them to school with the fear they may not make it home. After tragedy struck Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida last year, the victims decided to deal with their mourning by sparking a change. Parkland students organized a national movement for gun reform, and millions around the country took part in this movement. These organized marches and walkouts were ways to get the attention of government officials and others with the ability to help. Students are doing what the adults have failed to do: take a stand. But our voices only matter if someone is willing to listen. This is why we need the help of parents, communities, government officials, and organizations such as AAUW to help make our schools safer. The first step to making our schools safer is by creating programs in schools to help kids with anger issues, mental health issues, to mediate conflicts, and help kids develop conflict resolution skills. Along with that, we can increase security in schools by making sure every campus has a policeman on site. An article in the Campus Safety magazine states that we need to better train law enforcement and school staff to make our schools safer. Kids should be taking part in anti-bullying and anti-violence trainings at a young age, so they are able to grow up with a better mindset. In an article about the 3 keys to school safety, it states that there's a shortage of school counselors, school psychologists, and school social workers in public education. This is why we need these programs in our schools, to help prevent violence, because the reality is people do not just snap. Schools can also provide a confidential number that allows students to text a tip if there is a possible threat. Law enforcement can then take action. We need to learn to better assess the situation before another incident occurs. Many of the shooters are known to possess a lone wolf attitude and have shown prior signs of being unstable. Those signs are usually ignored. Parkland's shooter was expelled from Stoneman Douglas for dangerous behavior, yet expulsion was the only action taken. He was even reported to the FBI months before the incident after posting on a YouTube video, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter." Yet nothing was done. Time and time again, these behaviors are swept under the rug. And when another shooting happens, it is no longer a surprise to us. Could this have been prevented? Could other shootings have been prevented as well if we didn't ignore the signs? Could these shootings have been prevented if the government decided to put gun laws into place and take military weaponry out of the hands of civilians? Why is the right to own a gun more important than the right to live? Though mental health plays a factor in America's gun problem, the truth is, if we didn't have as many guns, we wouldn't have a gun problem. According to ABC News, of the 10 deadliest shootings, 5 have taken place in the past 3 years. These deadly shootings have been leaking into our schools, and by the time we were halfway through 2018, there had already been 40 school shootings throughout the country. We need stricter background checks. Guns should not end up in the hands of people who shouldn't have them. There needs to be a banning of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. There is no need for a citizen to have a weapon of war. We need to get rid of politicians taking donations from the NRA. And we need to stop glorifying these shooters on the media. Instead, we need to take action. Gun reform is not the answer to all of our problems, but it is a start. After the shooting at Stoneman Douglas, I witnessed the victims of this tragedy step up and take a stand. I was inspired. I felt the same way as millions of other students around the country. A change needs to be made. So I got involved with Cleveland School Remembers, a nonprofit organization of teachers that were teaching at Cleveland Elementary in Stockton, California, when there was a shooting there 20 years ago. I also also worked with other community members and teenagers my age, and we helped to form a March for Our Lives march here in Stockton. The march here in Stockton was one of thousands all over the world aimed towards preventing gun violence. This movement was the first step. Now it is time for action. As an organization that strives for education and equality, it is important that AAUW helps us to make our schools safer. We need help funding and starting programs in our schools to help prevent violent behavior. We need stricter background checks, and we need to get the military weaponry out of the hands of civilians. We need to get the attention of government officials and show them that we will not stop until a change is made. And lastly, we need to elect politicians who are motivated to make our schools safer, our country safer, and eliminate America's gun problem. Students shouldn't have to fear for their lives every time they walk into a classroom. This is why we must do everything we can to make our schools safer. Thank you.